As soon as you jumped in, I started having a panic attack after like 5 strokes. I was like, dude, what is going on? Why is my head like this? It should get better now. No matter how good a swimmer you are, you need to respect the sea. You need to respect the ocean. If you get stuck in a tidal current, no amount of swimming, even Michael Phelps will not be able to come out.
When you're moving in that motion and there's no conversation happening because you go into that zone, all the headspace ceases, and because that is you with the elements, The entire night you were up, because of, there was the excitement, the anxiety of, what ifs and what. Events like this also teach you a lot about being a little more humble, because when you're out in the midst of the ocean,
we were like, this is not our swim. We don't swim like this. Like, just imagining us swimming the way we were after like I think 5 hours. And we had trained for this.
What keeps you moving forward in that case?
I think it's just
Hello and welcome to Hit the Road. This is India's #1 podcast for all you endurance athletes, and my name is Rohan Thakar. Welcome to another Big Bang episode. Our series Hit the Road has been dedicated to the stories of those individuals who said that human limits does not exist. I have with me Bharat Sachdeva and Shaaswat Sharma. They flew right from Delhi to our Bombay studio to share their story about the incredible swimming adventure that they had. They swam across the Sri Lankan island to Dhanushkodi in Kanyakumari, India. They did in just 8 hours, swimming for almost 32 kilometers. If this is crazy, I don't know what is. But more importantly, what makes this adventure even more special is that it is said the Park Strait, is where the mythological Ram Setu bridge existed. We will talk more about it in the episode further, but we have something very special. We have a sponsor for this episode, NG Earsafe. They have made the Earsafe Pro, which is India's first open ear headphone. I'll be talking more about it in the episode and why you must also buy the NG Earsafe Pro. Till then, enjoy the episode. Just a note that whatever conversation we are having should not be taken as a professional advice, and this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you're embarking on a crazy adventure like this, we encourage you to consult a professional who can guide you on the proper approach to doing these adventures. So, welcome to the podcast, guys. I have with me Bharat Sachdeva and Shaaswat Sharma, who are going to talk about their experience on how they did that and why did they do that. So, welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rohan. Thanks for having us over here and your famous Hit the Road episode. I think we should call it Hit the Waters now.
Oh yeah, so absolutely. So, see, Hit the Road is an emotion because like whenever we want to do something, like just hit the road, like how Nike has just do it, we just hit the road, buddy, and you can conquer whatever you want to. So of course we would love to discuss more about your adventure and why did you decide to do something crazy like this. But before that, let's begin with both of you on your experience about doing long distance swimming and even swimming just for the sake. So alphabetically, let's go with it. Why don't we begin with Bharat?
So swimming has been part of my life. I've been swimming ever since I was a kid. And during the school years, started competing in state level competitions and district competitions. And my first national happened when I was in grade 4 at the age of 8. I remember back in 1992 when I represented the state of Delhi at the nationals in Trivandrum. So, the journey started all the way from there when I look back. And of course, swimming has been played a big role in my life, both as a swimmer and as an individual, because, when you are training, it teaches you discipline, teaches you hard work and commitment and honoring the process. Swimming during school time was different in terms of the lot of load and pressure from the coaches and the parents. But as I graduated, it was more of a leisure. It was more of a pleasure to get back in the water and also swim with some friends and take a few challenges like swimathons and, triathlon. So my journey as a triathlete also started post my swim career, and I realized, there is more to life than just swimming, and that's how precisely, how we brought ourselves into events like this.
Yeah. What has been your experience, after the triathlon and everything that you did in long distance? You also participated in professional swims. So just share a little more insight about it.
So triathlon, as you know, that it comprises of 3 sports, and 3 disciplines: swimming, running, and cycling. Yes, it had to be, grown. We had to grow as an athlete doing that, and we had to prepare and plan. I'm not a professional cyclist, neither I'm a professional runner, but yes, as part of our upbringing and journey, all these sports were part of it. But we had to take a next step, take a help with some experts and professional, join the groups, and which gave us a lot of insight on these sports, But yes, what stayed with us was how swimming, we learned the traits as an athlete in swimming. We could implement those and complement it during a triathlon. And my first triathlon was back in 2018 in Morocco, Marrakesh.
That was a full?
That was a half marathon. And prior to that, my first sea swim was back in 2008 in Florida. So I swam across the coast of Florida to Key West, and it was approximately 5 miles long, which was a big challenge at that time. And it was my first foray into sea swimming. So, sea swimming, it sounds very exciting and intriguing, but like anything, it requires a lot of work, a lot of overcoming your fears, and also the uncertainty that you're moving into from the swimming pool to the sea. So all these things led to one thing to the other, and we eventually had a vision, a dream that why not we swim together and do something which is part of our cultural legacy, which is Ram Setu, which is also known as Park Strait. And that took birth 2 years back, and we decided let's put out some work, let's start training for that. And Shaaswat and I then, started looking into the detailed training planning, and preparation, and also getting involved with the entire process.
Yeah.
And here we are, sharing that journey,
Awesome.
sharing the story, but also like, we were discussing, a lot of youngsters now are moving into this sport of triathlon. So as we talk, we'll share more about the journeys and how things can be supported.
Shaaswat, how about you? What has been your, story about swimming and around endurance sports?
So back in, I think when I was in 4th standard, that's when I started my swimming journey. My father actually was a cricketer, so he wanted to put me into cricket. But there was something about the water that just helped me, and it was an individual sport, which I kind of more resonated towards than a team sport. Obviously, at that point when you're that young, you're not really contributing much to a cricket team. So that's when I started swimming, and it was just training after that. And then, so after that, I just, it was just training, and I did represent Delhi in the nationals for about, I think, 18, 19 nationals I've played for Delhi. I was also in the water polo team for Delhi. So that's my swimming journey. And then after that, I did my engineering, and I moved to the States. I worked over there for a while. And then after coming back, obviously, working in the States took a little bit of a toll on my own health. I gained a lot of weight. And because of that, because of the entire work culture over there, and the food, I just gained so much. So after coming back, I got in touch with Bharat again. I'm like, what are you up to? And Bharat has been a health and fitness coach for a very long time, so he was kind of helping me out with getting back into swimming and getting back into shape. And that's when we started the ultra long distance. I was an ultra long distance swimmer, 1500 meters, 800 meters, and then I used to do long distance, 200 meter butterfly, 200 meter backstroke, even in the nationals. But leaving all of that apart and then coming back in, I remember the first day after I came back, it was just difficult for me to do 50 meters.
Been there.
Yeah. So my shoulders were all getting cramped up and I was feeling like, what the hell is wrong with me? I used to swim 1500. Like, I used to do multiple sets. I remember my dad just pushing me. So I used to do like 5-6 sets of 1500 meters. And then now I'm just giving up after 50 meters and barely making to the other side. But we took steps. Bharat had set out a plan where what we did was we started off with a small distance, and then later on we got ourselves into he's the one actually who's pushed me into triathlon as well. So he took me for my first Tough Man in Chandigarh. So that's the event. That's my first triathlon. I did the sprint distance. Luckily, because I am good in swimming, I got a podium finish also. I can't share the timings of my cycling and running. They were terrible, but the swimming really helps.
Tell me something, like swimming is the smallest part of the triathlon activity.
Right.
But even if you get like a 5-minute head start or a 5-minute lead, does that help in covering up the overall distance?
So in my case, yes, it was very helpful. I had
5 minutes is a pretty long time.
I had a lead of 15 minutes.
Oh wow!
But the thing is, like, it's as simple as if someone leaves in front of you. If you're in a car, right, you're probably driving at, let's say, 40. Right, and the other person is driving at 50, so the distance is only just 10. So how much time will you take to actually catch up to the person? So as the distance increases, obviously they have chance to cover up, but they have to put in that much more effort, whereas you're just cruising and then you have that stamina left to just do the burst at the end. So obviously, yes, I think swimming is a very integral and important part of the entire triathlon.
I think it also a lot matters on the distance of the triathlon. If it's a sprint, of course, it's like, you're going fast and from word go. So that 5-minute, the head start that you've got sustains. But when you're talking about half Ironman or full Ironman, then of course, swimming do play a considerable part, but not much, because then it's the cycling and the running. And the stronger your cycling and running is, which is what, I'm also personally working. I'm still calling myself a student of triathlon, and it's like, it takes years to really perfect your all three sports, and how you're optimizing them, how you are holding yourself in the transition from one to the other, because you really are, it's all about your mental and physical endurance, and more than that is your emotional, how you're holding yourself together. Absolutely. Especially when there are cyclists who pass you by, and you're not a strong cyclist. You may be the best swimmer, but it's also like, it gives you, it's a mirror. It's a mirror reflection, and how you handling your cramps and your injuries and the heat factor and all those things. Because training is one part, but when you're really out there performing and amongst like few hundred people, 1,000 people, it's then all your mental and how you put yourself together in a package.
Yeah. It brings me to a question. You are also a peak performance coach. What does that even mean?
So peak performance, like, it's high performance people who are already, training at elite level, So I had a opportunity and good fortunes to train with the Indian boxing contingent before the Tokyo 2020. Some of the people I was working were like Mary Kom and other Olympians and world champions, So at that level, more than anything, they need, what edge can they have over their compatriot, and we work a lot on visualization, breath work, because training wise, they're all doing similar training, but how they are managing their emotions. So when I was working with the boxing team, we used to do breath work in 3 different spaces. So before the bout, you need to really activate yourself, energize yourself. During the bout, when there's a pause and there's a break, how the athlete is really staying focused and channeling their energy and channeling their emotions. Different breath work. And then post the bout, whether they've won or lost, how they are like recovering and going into that state of calmness, So those are the things that, I worked with the athletes, and it was a research-based program. It's just that a lot of athletes don't really pay attention to breathing protocol, and also the recovery. So visualization and breathwork plays a huge role, and I was really happy when the athletes came back to me with a positive feedback and how it kept them in a zone, different zones of peak performance.
And our state of mind also affects our performance. We may end up doing a lot more or doing a lot less as well.
Absolutely. And again, breath and your thoughts play a very critical role. If I'm feeling overburdened, overwhelmed, and I'm not feeling positive about myself, I just need to observe my breath. And that's what when I work with a lot of young talent, teenagers, it's important that they learn the protocol of breathing, because a lot of us have not been taught to optimize our breath, and
so how does that work?
So again, there are different exercises, where you learn to first understand, the breathing, like any other muscle, even the lungs are like that your diaphragm and how it is being used, how you're expelling out the air and how it's taking the oxygenating your system. And there are some hacks that you can do as an athlete, like hydration, so those who are aware of it, those who understand the modalities and those who have learned it can really, sustain and have an edge over the others. Like I said, it takes a while to practice, and it's a journey, like any other thing. Like you're training your muscles in the gym or in the sports. Same way, you need to take time and sit with someone who can explain and share with you the detailed understanding of breathing, breathwork, recovery, human performance, and all these things. And it's not something new. It's been shared in our yoga shastras, shared in the yoga textbooks, and how the yogis or you can Wim Hof, who's the protagonist of the breathwork method, an Iceman. So how those things have really helped people to overpower and overcome the challenges of nature, and same thing happens to us. So that's about high performance mindset.
I completely agree with that. Like the way we breathe, it can affect our performance. It can help us move a little more longer as well without much fatigue. Can we do a drill?
Sure. Sure.
So there's something called as box breathing as well.
Yes.
So is that the one you're talking about, or is there?
That is one. There are other breathing modalities that can activate your energy. Box breathing is more to keep yourself focused in the zone and also stay sharp.
Okay.
And a lot of the high performance individual, whether it's a Navy SEAL, and they don't do any over the counter stuff. They will only do things that are tried and tested,
right?
And has been research has been done. So box breathing, there is a 4-7-6 breathing, which is 4-second inhale, 7-second hold, and 6-second exhale. And then there is activation breathing, which is also called like Kapalbhati. Of course, before we start with any of these breathing, there's a thing that to be noted that you have to first check in with your health condition, because a lot of people with high blood pressure or something with the epileptic, they have to be careful not to jump into it. And also, if never done it before, it's advisable that you start slow, that you start with small breathing span. So athletes is a different story because they have well-trained mechanism. But for any youngster who's starting it off, one has to be done under supervision. Like anything, if you're going to a gym, how much weight are you lifting? If you never lifted the weight, it will lead to injuries. Same with the breath work. It has to be optimized, done in an
wrong breathing technique leads to injuries.
It can affect your entire performance, because you will not be able to manage your performance, and it will just make you more breathless rather than relaxing you. So yes, again, it is to be taken with little consideration, awareness, but it can really.
So how about we do a drill? One before we begin our activity. It could be whether swimming, running, cycling, any of it. So one common drill that can be practiced. Second, while doing the activity. Of course, with swimming, it changes entirely. But, if you can share something that is specific to swimming and while running or cycling. So what kind of breathing technique can be, applied?
So before starting any activity, especially if you are, an amateur athlete or a professional athlete, it's advisable that, first you need to tune in, get connected to what you're planning to do. So starting with normal breathing, rhythm, which can fine tune you and bring you into the space and put the intention into the activity. Once you've got that, so that can easily be done by 2 seconds inhale, 2 seconds exhale, just like a normal breathing pattern. 10 to 15 breath that tunes you in, like you inhale to the count of 2 and exhale.
Do you hold your breath or do you do?
No, you just do regulated breathing. Don't holding in over here. So inhale through your nose. A lot of people have difficulty exhaling through the nose, so it's also fine to exhale through your mouth.
Okay.
So, but inhalation is better to go through your nose. If you can master the nasal breathing, nothing better than that. So after doing that, for people who are in a high performance sport like boxing, martial arts, swimming, running, they can start with activation where your body temperature goes up, where you're really getting into that energetics. So where we go for 30 seconds to a minute,
So this is high-paced breathing.
High-paced breathing. After you've set the tone, you've started with the base, the warm-up, and then you're going into a little more high-paced breathing, which could be for anywhere from half a minute to a minute. Again, be careful because it can lead to a head rush if you've never done it before, because you're oxygenating your system. So start slowly, 15 to 20 seconds, and then during the activity, one needs to be mindful, because a lot of time when we are in that high performance sport, football, cricket, or any activity that requires a lot of movement, you need to optimize your breath. A lot of time what happens, if you see the youngsters, they hold their breath, whether they are swimming, whether they are doing cycling, whether they're doing some yoga also. So that is the whole idea, that we need to be mindful. That's the role of a teacher to the student, to keep them aware of that. Stay mindful so that you're aware of your breath. I'm not like a lot of people do squats, I see in the gym, or do some bench press. They hold their breath because you can see the facial expression. They're like push-ups, no breathing. What happens is, after a point, you will not be able to perform because the
brain gets
stuck, and also there's no circulation happening. So it is doing more harm than good. So when I observe the youngsters when we're working out, I just make sure that 3 things to be notified. One is your breath, how your breathing is happening. One is the movement, and being aware of your technique. Like posture is very important. A lot of time, how we sit, and that directly correlates to our breathing and to our moods, to our emotions. So your posture and your breath goes hand in hand. If I'm having a hunched posture, which a lot of times I see a lot of youngsters and even the people working in offices, the shoulder and the neck issues are happening. So just being aware of that and channeling your breath work into that can really help you adjust some changes.
The activity specific, like if we are talking about swimming, so for swimming, how can we optimize our breathing?
So basically in swimming, the breathing happens in the water. Your exhalation has to be, most important when you're underwater. If you're not exhaling at a consistent pace, not too fast, then you're not able to breathe in. A lot of people hold their breath and then they gasp for a breath. Inhalation will happen automatically if your exhalation is done properly and your body position is maintained. A lot of time people swim for a long stretch without taking a breath. And that challenges them. They may swim well, but if the breathing is not right, forget about any long distance swim.
Hey guys, if you have heard this episode till here, it means you are enjoying our conversation. What makes this episode even more special is our sponsor, NG EarSafe Pro. They are India's first ever open ear headphone. What does that mean? The usual headphones are either they block your ear or they go inside your ear. It cuts you off from the world. And it's not safe when you are on the road running or riding. India, as they say, is not for beginners. You can get hit from any side, and safety should be your paramount interest. And this is where the NG headphones comes in. It's very simple to wear actually. You just put it on your ear, it stays outside your ears, and your ear tract is completely open. So the way you hear audio files is through something called as bone conduction. It helps you not disconnect from the external world. It's something very safe, and I have been using it for over a week now, and it's incredible experience. It's weightless, absolutely. I have been wearing it for over 8 hours now, and I just don't feel that it's blocking or it's weighing me down at all. What's even more interesting is that it comes with an IP68 rating. That means your swims are no longer needed to be boring. You can take your favorite music or your podcast with you with this 8 GB inbuilt storage. Or something that I have personally done is I have paired it with my Garmin. I have Amazon Music installed on my Garmin, so my favorite podcasts and my music are all synced up with the Garmin, and I can play it through the headphones. The team has actually done an incredible job with the packaging as well, and they give 2 magnetic USB chargers. They are used for both file transfer and for charging as well. It also comes with a USB Type-C port in case you want to connect it to your phone. They also have given these earplugs, so if you are into swimming, this is going to come really handy for you. And yes, I have tried almost all the headphones which are out there in the market, and this has been the most comfortable piece for me personally when I am both in office and when I'm outside. So I encourage you to check out ngearsafe.com. Check out their range of the Ear Pro headphones and also the other products that NG has to offer. Their goal is to keep your ears safe and open, and I think they are doing an incredible job. Being from India, I think you must support them and try out their products. Now, back to the episode.
But if the breathing is not right, forget about any long distance swim. You can only swim for a particular stretch. So first thing we share and talk about is, learning to optimize your breath while you're in the water and not to hold it for too long. It's the fundamental engine. If the engine is not tuned in and done well, your vehicle will not go too far. So breathing in that way plays a very important role.
Does our angle also play a role? Like when we pull out our head out of water?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's these are like components that needs to be tuned in, and a lot of time the youngsters as well as the adults, and I see a lot of people who are aspiring to be triathletes. The first message is stick to the basics, take it slow, don't rush.
Yeah,
the swims and all will be much more enjoyable experience rather than a gruesome experience. Now, we have seen some youngsters who have started to do triathlon without proper preparation. I advise give it some time. Don't rush into it just because my friend or somebody has done it. I have to prove myself. Proving yourself without adequate preparation and planning can be futile. We have seen a lot of people had to stop or quit in the middle, which is not very good if you're starting off because you don't have a confidence then. So right technique under the supervision of an expert who can guide you, who can support you, I think is optimal. And Shaashwat can share more, how, his own journey as an athlete transitioning from the pool swimming to the sea swimming, because sea can be a very, it's a very uncertain place, and the waves and the tides and the salt water can really disturb the entire.
Yeah. So going from not being able to swim 50 meters to now being able to do 10 kilometers, I am the fastest swimmer in 10 kilometers in the northern area. And then right now, recently we had a Goa swimathon as well, in which I was the fastest swimmer in the 2 kilometers in the entire event. So
wow,
that entire journey was again breathtaking. Again, since we're talking about breathing. But so as Bharat has said, right, so any kind of endurance sport requires breath work, and especially so sprints in swimming you can do very quickly. So we recommend, don't 50 meters, 100 meters, you hold on to your breath and rush for it. But endurance swimming cannot happen. You have to breathe every second stroke, you have to breathe every third stroke, depending on how you're going. The inhalation, obviously, I do it from my mouth initially, because you gotta turn your flip and then take it from the mouth, and then as soon as I take in the breath, immediately my nose starts releasing and exhaling. So there's a constant circulation. Because of the constant circulation, the stamina doesn't get hampered so well, and the breath and everything is fine. So even after 10 kilometers I'm not tired. Maybe my muscles are fatigued, but the tiredness comes from the lungs.
It should feel natural, as if you're walking.
Right. Exactly. So for long distance swims, do not try to hold your breath. Just constantly exhale through your nose and breathe in from your mouth. One thing transitioning from swimming pool swim to the open water swim is sighting. That's the key, because in the swimming pool you've got a black lane in the bottom and you're just focused, and your face is kind of, the neck is aligned to see the bottom a little bit forward. But for sighting, what you need to do is every few strokes, depending on how comfortable you are, ideally it should be 8 hands, but it could be lesser initially. So every 2 hands, 3 hands also you might need to course correct. So you're doing sighting, so you're looking up, forward. So that's also...
What is this 2 hands, 8 hands?
Ideally, what it's recommended is that when you're doing long distance swimming, you take 8 hands. So 8 hands has regular breathing, either alternate breathing like from the left or the right, or one direction only. But after 8 hands, you should look forward. You should look forward onto where you're going, whether you're going on the correct path, correct side or not. So you have, like, usually you have those buoys aligned, or there's a boat that you can see in long distance. So that's something that you have to sight for. Initially, I would not recommend 8 hands. I would recommend do 2 hands, 4 hands, 6 hands, because what happens is you're not that comfortable in swimming, because in the sea you don't really see anything inside. You're basically, it's just dark for you. After your hand you see nothing. So it's very easy to get diverted, and a lot of swimmers do that. Like even in the Goa Swimathon, what I saw was people climbing on one another because they couldn't see, right? And that's what happens.
And Indian waters are pretty muddy as well.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't see, it's not clear. So it's better for you to sight and stay safe, because you don't want to get injured by someone else's elbow or knee and stuff. So yeah, that's something that you should look for. And then when entering the open waters, always have a buddy with you initially, right? It really helps if someone else is there with you, so that you're swimming together.
Yeah.
It can be very daunting. The waves, as you're going in, it's not just about the swim, it is about your mental peace also, and it gets affected with the depth, with everything.
Yeah.
As you improve, as you're going, you'll be more comfortable with treading and everything, but initially you have to have a buddy with you. You can't play with water. Like no matter how good a swimmer you are, you need to respect the sea, you need to respect the ocean. If you get stuck in a tidal current, no amount of swimming, even Michael Phelps will not be able to come out until the water releases. And at that time, what helps is your calmness. If you're calm, if you can hold your breath, let the water release you. Once it releases you, you'll be able to figure out, okay, I'm fine.
What happens? What do you do in a tidal wave situation? Or when a current comes in? Like, I was just reading it 2 days back. There was a news that around 865 contestants got DQ'd or DNF because of the waves. They were unable to move forward. Let me just pull that up for you.
A lot of events, there are like chances where the organizers themselves will cancel it, because of the unpredictable weather conditions. And it has happened in the past, in Goa Swimathons, where they had to cancel the entire event.
Full of jellyfish that came in as well, where people couldn't finish because the jellyfishes were actually hampering everyone. So the school entered where they were supposed to enter, and then the entire, all of them got stung pretty badly. So,
and it is bad. It is bad. We when we went for our Ram Setu swim, you won't believe that our crew applied the car grease on our body. The car grease wards off any, especially the jellyfishes, to come close to us, because it's the chemical that wards them away. But at the same time, it's all sticky. We are like smelling the entire time. It's not very pleasant, especially first thing in the morning that you wake up and you apply the car grease all over your body, which takes like hours. Even after the swim, few days.
Does it not hurt your skin?
No. It does. See, the heat factor is there. And on top of that, you're not wearing any body lotion, but
you did not wear a wetsuit as well.
That's not allowed. Wetsuit is not allowed. You have to wear like one piece, which is what is recommended in any open water swims. So,
but Ironman has wetsuits, right?
Ironman is different. But when you're going for a swims, like the sea swims, English Channel or all these open waters, they don't really allow.
Anything that helps with buoyancy is not allowed. The colder the water, It is even worse. Like you cannot use wetsuits. Anything that helps with buoyancy, you cannot use. So you have to just wear stuff. So a tri-suit is still okay in some certain warm weathers, but the cold, like English Channel, you're supposed to wear a V shape. That's it, a Speedo. You cannot wear anything because that'll help with the cold, and that takes away the thrill of the swim or what our predecessors have done. Yeah.
But the heat factor is tremendous, especially when you are out in the, for us in our experience during the Ram Setu, because we started in the morning around 6 o'clock and we finished our swim around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So all throughout, the challenge more than anything was the tides as well as the heat. The sun was right over our head, by 7:38 when you're in the ocean, it's like already out there.
Yeah.
So, braving that, and also on top of that, the seasickness that takes toll on you. You may be a good swimmer, you can prepare well, but, these are certain uncertainties and unexpected challenges that come along the way, which, we were just discussing and I said, it was more of a special forces mindset that we had to employ because, you may be a great swimmer, but if those factors come in, because these are all, you're in a little battle, you're a war, and in a war zone, and ocean is not a very it's forgiving place. It can be very unforgiving if you are weak. So what really we discovered was the mental aspect. What we really discovered was, as much as we were puking, as much as the heat factor, how we hold ourselves, and if we have come for a mission, we have to complete this and then we go back. We will not settle down, just because, we are unwell, if we're puking, it's the heat factor. Of course, it was very hot, the water temperature, because the body temperature went so high. So, and on top of that, we had to stay hydrated. We had to take some water and some liquids. But and
all of what we were taking was coming out also.
So a lot of puking, a lot of throwing up, but I think thankful to the crew, and having each other, to give our support. I think that really mattered. And we had one of the best crews, they were supportive, they were totally with us, very much present all throughout.
Yeah. So we have been talking a lot about the adventure that you did recently. Let's unfurl the mystery and, what it was. How did you plan it? When did you do it? Why did you do it? So who wants to begin?
So we basically swam from Sri Lanka to India. The entire stretch, we swam along the Ram Setu. So our swim started from Talai Manar, that was in Sri Lanka, and then we ended up at Dhanushkoti, which is in India.
The planning took us over 2 years, to envision this event and do all the necessary arrangements, do all the necessary planning, and taking the permissions from the respective ministries, High Commission of India and Sri Lanka, Ministry of Defense in Sri Lanka, Ministry of Defense India, Ministry of Home, Ministry of External Affairs. So of course
that's a lot of government departments.
Governmental departmental permissions, because of course when you're going for something like that, and especially doing something as a brand ambassador of the country, they need to see who you are, where you're, what's your background, what have you done before. And of course there are like channels that you have to really cross. And of course I want to also highlight, thankful to everybody who came along the way, who's helped us with our preparation, support, the crew, the former swimmers. I also at this juncture also like to mention Sucheta was a great help. She gave us a lot of inputs and all, who was also swum before, one of the few Indian
just mention the full name,
Sucheta Dev Burman, and she was one of the top swimmers in the open water. She was very helpful, giving us some cues and supporting us. But at the same time, from our friends to the family to everybody that came along the way, and also a lot of time went besides training in the water was discussions. What about how we could also take the support of few sponsors, and our sponsors Lifelong was one of the key players who came forward. Very rarely you find sponsorship in open water swimming in India. But thanks to our, 116, media partners, and they were really there to promote us. Gaurav Bahirwani, for example, lifelong RA Engineering College. So all these people came together. We gave them a pitch, about, of course, it takes months to get, out of 100, you will get 1 or 2 people who will be really interested. So that was another aspect that we had to do ourselves, because we didn't have any, marketing agency or anything like that. So Shaaswat and I kept working on it, making the pitches, and discussing with a few people in the sports. But cricket is something that people are more interested. But open water swimming, I'm glad more and more people are coming. With seeing Milind Soman and other top celebs, who are doing outdoor adventure activities. And Milind did his triathlon, when he was 50, and it was his challenge and gift to himself. And likewise, for us, it was something that we could have created, especially to promote long distance swimming outdoors, and also to promote the, bring awareness to the water incidents that are happening in the country with a lot of youngsters. Water incidents, drowning incidents, a lot of people, we hear the news of drowning when they go out. So just to bring that to light, guys, water safety is paramount. You must learn how to swim properly under the supervision of instructor. And I'm sure a lot of government schools have also started this entire planning of Learn to Swim programs, which is a great initiative by a lot of state governments, a lot of state bodies, federations and all. And of course, highlighting the cultural legacy called Ram Setu, the Park Strait, and make it like a globally renowned stretches of swimming, like how the world over people go for English Channel. And we don't have much, only a handful of people have swum the Ram Setu stretch, the Park Strait. So we wanted to, also bring that highlight to globally.
So if you would compare, between English Channel and Park Strait, if you were to, do a comparo, what are some of the figures and, facts that one can know about?
So the English Channel has been attempted by a lot more people than obviously what is down south from us.
Yeah, I don't know why, but Europeans have this weird thrill that, life is so boring. Let's do something that can kill us.
So the English Channel, the major problem over there is to acclimatize with the colder water, and hypothermia over there is very real. And the problems that come along with hypothermia is basically that what will happen is that your heart will slowly slow down, and you will not realize whether you're just feeling cold or your heart is slowing down. There's no idea. And suddenly there'll be fatigueness in your hands, you're not moving. And then from outside only people can observe, okay, this guy's going to hypothermia, let's pull him out. And that's the end of it. But while you are swimming, you will not know that. So that, I think, is one of the biggest challenges of the English Channel. That's why they don't allow wetsuits. They don't allow, you have to go there and acclimatize. So, in fact, I am planning to do the English Channel in July.
Wow.
So, I'm going there next week just to acclimatize. A 7-day camp I'm taking over there just to acclimatize with water, just to see what's going on.
What is the temperature of water there?
While we swim, it's going to be 15 degrees approximately. The good thing about Park Strait is it's not.
And how much
cold.
Is the distance of English Channel?
It's approximately 34 kilometers. I'm doing this one in a relay because one, you don't get slots that easily, and there was a relay team already going. They needed a third person.
How does it work?
How does the relay work?
Like for Park Strait, you decided you want to do this. You got the permissions. You did it.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there's a slot. Like a ballot which happens.
So English Channel is actually way more organized and it is much more easier to go there rather than what we had to go through from over here. There wasn't a problem by the government bodies. Like, they were all very helpful. In fact, the moment we sent an email out to the Ministry of External Affairs, we got a response with an NOC, and they put us in touch with the Indian High Commission in Sri Lanka also almost immediately. And the Indian High Commission in Colombo helped us get the permission from Ministry of Defense in Sri Lanka also. So the government bodies were very on top of it, but there is no structure. Like, as someone who just hears, okay, I want to do this Park Strait, how do I go there and do it? There's no structure. Over there on the English Channel, you have a website, you have everything, you have the crews that can take you along. They're all registered. You have to do a qualifying swim for a few hours, 6 hours or 7 hours. I think 6 hours is the qualifying time for an individual, and 2 hours.
In 6 hours, how much distance can you cover?
It doesn't matter. You just have to swim for 6 hours to get the qualification.
You just need the endurance.
You just need to be able to swim for 6 hours. And for relays, it's 2 hours that you have to give a qualifying swim to. So English Channel is structured. Like they have these recognized bodies. You don't have to go to the government. You don't have to find their email address and stuff. It is just that there.
Yeah.
Whereas over here, it was first getting all the like Bharat already mentioned all the names of the ministries, and then after that, there were local authorities that we had to show up to, and then there were custom officers, and then there were the Indian Navy was there, the Coast Guard was there, Sri Lankan. So all of that, just to have so many bodies just associate with that. But Park Strait is a beautiful stretch to do. The waters are so there are 2 seas that meet over there, so that is what makes it a little more rough.
Which are the 2 seas?
Bay of Bengal, and the Indian Ocean.
Okay. I think I don't.
There's one more Sri Lankan sea as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Stretch.
forgetting the name.
I'll just pull it up.
So it's a mixture of those two.
Confluence, yeah.
It's a mixture of those 2 seas that mix together, and that is what causes the turbulence over there. The wavy wise,
Lakadive Sea.
Right. So from a turbulent standpoint, I think Park Strait is again English Channel. We'll get to know once we go there. But this was turbulent waters, but it was warm. It had the challenges over there were the heat. The challenges over there was the night of seasickness that we ensued. Yeah. And just talking about what you were talking about, like the journey, our journey to do this.
Yes.
So it took us 2 years. It was a fitness journey from a physical standpoint also. How we individually trained each of our muscles. We targeted groups, like as an example, our shoulders. How do we improve the shoulder capability to have, because endurance swimming is majorly dependent on your shoulders, and that's where the most injuries come from. It is not the kick. The kick is just not to propel you. It is just for balance. It is just for just giving you that buoyancy help. But your shoulders are the main actors. They're the ones that are going to push you through. So just targeting and helping the muscles, and then obviously your core and your kicks, and not just that, but the heart. That's the most important piece. So how do we train how do we do the cardiovascular? Now we can't swim, like we were planning to swim 32 kilometers, right? So we can't swim 32 kilometers every day, right? So how do we do that? So we broke it down to multiple ground exercises.
Okay.
We included cycling and running, anything that was cardio that we could maintain our heart rates at a certain point. So usually what we were doing was we were doing 1 hour runs where we were trying to keep our heart rate between 130 to 160. And similarly on cycling, we were trying to do that, and then we used to monitor every day when how soon is it coming back down, how much is the variation, how much
resting heart rate.
Exactly. And then obviously monitoring our resting heart rate and how it was improving over time. So I think in the past 2 years my resting heart rate was very good when I used to do compete for nationals, but then it came back. It was worse because it went up to 60s. Now it's back to 40s. So I'm happy with that. So again, how do you treat your heart is the most important thing. And then right before the event, I think a month, we stopped doing strenuous stuff. Like we were still doing 10 kilometers runs and like 5 kilometers, 7 kilometers swims and all. But more than the physical aspect, we had shifted over to the mental aspect, what Bharat was talking about visualization and breath work. So visualization was very key for us. We were just imagining ourselves in the ocean. It was all like, the way I visualize is I imagine a dark room, a dark place, and just a spotlight on me and how my shoulder is moving, how my body is rotating, how the kick is coming, how is the breath work going, if the waves are coming, how to deal with those. If it is choppy waters, you kind of compromise on your glide a little bit so that you can get out of it much quicker. And then if the water is calmer, then you go for the glide, you let your body glide through. So all of that visualization, because at the end of the day, when you're swimming, at that point you will not be able to really comprehend all of this stuff. It needs to be in your muscle memory for that.
One thing I would like to add to Shaashwat is, the progressive development with any planning, it's very important. You have to be clear with your outcome, what's your end goal, and plan the program in a very progressive way. You cannot tend to do one thing one day, and then the other thing another day. Every week there has to be monitored. It has to be in micro and macro cycles. It has to be weekly progression, monthly progression, and you need to monitor your performance. So all of that, when we come together, it really allows us, as somebody who would be going ahead with the performance, to track our overall development, where we are both in terms of physical pressure. It's easier said than done. That it's not about only the josh, or that I can do this. If that you may have been a great athlete before, but with passing years, you really have to really honor the process. It's not like I've done that or I can do it. No, it has to be done in a very systematic, scientific way.
Every day is day one. Every
day is day one, and you have to adding to another component that Shaashwat had touched upon about the shoulder. So just remember that from your shoulder to your pelvis is your core area. This is entire core, and how you train your core, which is the fulcrum, whether it's a rotation, whether it's a bending, whether it's the shoulder girdles, it can be protective, and to take that daunting a task, or whether you're a professional athlete, if your core strength is not built optimally with your spine and your midsection, shoulders will give up. And a lot of times, athletes who are in the explosive sports, or where the shoulder movement is constant, they tend to have rotator cuff injuries, back injuries. So one has to plan the entire program in a way which supports them, and at the same time the body takes its time to recover, especially when you're touching 35, 40, 45. And a lot of people you see coming into long distance sports,
during this time only.
During this time, because I think it's a midlife crisis, so they want to try something
and
daunting.
Everything said and done, it's an expensive sport. So
it is because it involves travel. It involves a lot of sacrifice of your personal time, your work hours, your family hours. So yes, even the family sometimes think you have got lunatic. You're like spending hours outdoors, and then you sleep early in the evening. And then waking up. But again, that's something. It's a lot of work goes into that individual, and also the sacrifice that person is making, whether it's for 2 years or 5 years. It's a program, like Olympic cycle. There's the Olympic calendar. Same way, a lot of triathletes, a lot of long distance athletes have a calendar for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and that calendar needs to be looked into. You have to really focus on what's required in the first 3 months, 6 months. Make smaller goals. You don't have to think over 2 years from now. Into that 2 years build up, what are the other smaller
there
events?
has to be checkpoints.
Absolutely. And checkpoints both physically and also mentally and spiritually, because it's a very spiritual oriented process too, because you'd go deep into yourself. You're spending a lot of time alone. Are you comfortable sitting with yourself by yourself? Because when you're moving in that motion and there's no conversation happening, because you go into that zone, all the headspace ceases, and because that is the you with the elements, and how like swimming in the ocean or in the pool back and forth, it can be very monotonous. Person will say, I am okay and done with it, finished with Ironman planning and preparation. But that it is where it really get tested on a emotional and spiritual
And after
level.
that point, the real training starts.
Because you overcome those, fight, that happens day in, day out. That I don't want to eat this, I don't want to eat that, I want to enjoy life, I want to have but balancing it out is very important. So one message is that, don't give up on life, keep a balance, do your preparation work and all, if you're like an amateur, if you want to do it for your own personal challenges, but keep a balance of life. Don't let that sacrifice your personal life.
And one thing we wanted to highlight with this event was about perseverance and patience. And that's something that is easier said than done. Like you cycling 5 minutes a day is easy for today, but you doing that over a year, that somehow becomes a little bit challenging. But you have to realize by setting up incremental goals that through perseverance, the human body can achieve anything. And that's what we wanted to try to highlight with our ultra long distance swim as well, that just through perseverance, just getting up, waking up every day and following a certain set of routine, we can achieve what kind of seems a little daunting. That we can go ahead and achieve something like that. And the other reason why we did this was to to just give out the feeling of Vasudev Kutumbakam. That's something that we like to talk about internally as well. It's a little spiritual for us, but the world is one. The one world, one nation. Just everybody, not just humans, but every living being is just one. So we wanted to get and spread that awareness as well, and we wanted to improve the relations between India's neighbors as well, as you saw, because the Indian government had to talk with the Sri Lankan government, Sri Lankan government had to give permissions and everything. So that kind of sends a place where, okay, Sri Lankans are watching. And recently I got contacted by the Ministry of Defense Sri Lanka. I got a message from them saying, share the official timing so we can share it with our people over here, because that's what it is. They're now saying, oh, Indian swimmers swam from here. Let's do that. So sports is a very good factor to bring two nations together. And we felt that very well with the Sri Lankan Navy. They escorted us in the Sri Lankan waters. And I don't know if this is the right time to talk about this, but while coming back, as we were crossing over to the Indian borders and the Sri Lankan Navy had to leave, there was a horn that we heard.
So they were with you till the end,
till the Sri Lankan waters.
Oh wow!
Right. So when they were supposed to turn back, there was a horn that they blew. Again, the horns, we were supposed to look at our ship. That's what we were trained for. So as soon as we heard a horn, we both stopped and we looked at our ship. And our ship folks were like, they pointed to the Sri Lankan ship. So both of us turned over there, and there we saw these, I think 11 or 12 Sri Lankan Navy folks standing over there on their deck, and they were clapping and giving us a thumbs up, and that was really sweet of them. And again, that was one of the purposes why we wanted to do it, because at the end of the day, nations are just boundaries, but humans are humans. Like, you identify as a human being.
Absolutely.
So that was one of the feelings that we wanted to ensure, and I think we somewhat achieved that. So it was
Tell me about the day before, it's T-1.
Okay, so T-1, we started off from Dhanushkoti after our customs check. So the Indian customs folks had seen our passport, and we left from there. We sat on a boat, all jolly, we were having fun. I think there was one English speaking person with us, and the rest, every one of our crew was Tamilian, but we were talking to everyone. And none of us, both of us didn't understand Tamil, they didn't understand English, but we enjoyed our conversation still. So it was all jolly, all fun till the time, I think around 6:30 p.m. that day, when things started becoming a little dark, because what happened was the weather kind of changed, and our boat isn't that big. So what happened was, it started. So
you didn't
shaking.
stay in land?
No, we weren't. We are not allowed to stay on the land. Our ship was anchored about 4 or 5 kilometers away from.
Why was that?
Shore. That's the permissions that they give us.
Okay.
So because there is no immigration check over on the Talaimanar beach, so the Sri Lankan Navy cannot. The Sri Lankan government is not going to give you permission to just step
Okay.
on the land over there.
Okay.
So you're supposed to get anchored about 4-5 kilometers away.
So just because Sri Lanka government has waived off visa for Indian doesn't mean that you can just go there and buy a boat.
Yeah, I mean, you better not. Those guys were carrying guns, by the way, so you should probably not test their aim. Anyways, so yeah, so the water became so turbulent at around 6:40 p.m. and the boat started shaking. And we are not fishermen. We don't spend so much time on a boat which shakes so much, and just seasickness just poured in. It started giving us a little bit of a burning sensation in our stomachs, and then the puking started. And it wasn't just for us. Even the external observer that came, he started puking as well. And it was supposed to get better by 11 p.m. But unfortunately, 11 p.m. didn't happen that day. Up until I think 6:30 in the morning when we dove in to start, it was just shaking. And after that also it kept shaking but we were in the water.
So what happens, after like long hours sitting like that, you go in a state of hallucination because there's like you're out in the middle of the sea. Then there's the whole turbulence that happened the night before. The entire night you were up, because of, there was the excitement, the anxiety of, what ifs and what, so all of that. But as Shaashwat said, it was a great feeling when we got sent off by our, local departments, the customs, the marines, the navy had come to see us off. And at the same time, they had all come to receive us when we had finished the event. That was like most endearing and, it humbling to see them, so waiting for us and garlanding us with the stole, and inviting us that, our countrymen have returned home. And it was like homecoming. The locals who were standing there, the tourists, they were all wondering like, what are these two people waving the India flag? And when they heard the officials saying that these guys have come from Sri Lanka to India, so they could not believe their eyes. What have they seen? So they all came like, and it was so beautiful. They came, can we have pictures? Can we have an autograph? So for a moment, we felt like, the nation has come together to welcome us. Even if they were unknown people, there were some media people standing there taking a news bite. So it felt really good that we didn't just finish to the empty shore. There were people waiting to greet us. There were officials, from the local police department, naval, marines and fisheries. All had come to, and our Shaashwat's parents were there. Our friends were there, So it was really sweet that, we felt welcomed back, and of course after those 8-10 hours of grueling swim, and like he was saying, afternoon it was so sweet that the crew had brought us some curd rice from home, and they made some local food. We had lunch on the boat, and that was the previous day, and that was the only food we ate. Nothing in the evening because we were all in the topsy-turvy. Nothing in the morning, though we had kept the entire bag of all the fruits and the energy bars, the gels and drinks. Hardly anything got used because everything was coming out. So, just little water here and there, some,
electrolytes.
Electrolytes.
Electrolytes were coming out as well. There was nothing
Nothing at all. But yeah, what really mattered was, it was just the mental kick. Because a lot of time it came to you, like, I'm done, I cannot go ahead. Dehydration, the vomiting and all these things. But I think just having each other's back, and also the crew was one of the best crews, they supported us. They really went all out to keep us motivated, to keep us like, you can do it, you come, keep moving.
Imagine for 7 hours when we were swimming, we were following individual dinghies. And every time I looked up, those guys were cheering. They were like, come. And that was really helpful because we know like what our mindset was. Like we had practiced before as well. So this is a funny incident when we started.
Tell me something about, like we've talked about before and after, but about, when you are in the ocean for 7-8 hours.
Yeah. So as soon as when we started, so we practiced for 3 days with this crew just to get to know them, and they get to know us. So we jumped in the water and we were swimming for an hour and a half before in training. So all good. So they knew that once we jump in, our first nutrition stop is going to probably have after 1.5 or 2 hours. Some funny thing what happened was that we were supposed to wear caps where we had the sponsors, right?
Okay.
And what happened was the printing guy had messed up the print for the actual logos. So what we finally had to do was we had to put stickers. Now the problem with stickers is the inherently what happens is but the swimming cap is supposed to adapt to your head, right? So it stretches and it adapts to your head. But what happens when you put a sticker on it? It stops stretching. So when we put that on, and there was seasickness, right? Our heads were already bursting, and then we jumped in. And as soon as we jumped in, I started having a panic attack after like 5 strokes. I was like, dude, what is going on? Why is my head like this? It should get better now. And I couldn't immediately connect the cap. But after like, I would say after 7, even after 3 minutes or 4 minutes, I was like, stop. I stopped them. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. And then I finally realized that, it's the cap, and the cap needs to go.
Was it the same with you as well?
Initially, yes, like he was saying, it was bursting, your head was bursting out, because of the stretch that it was giving. Usually we've swum throughout our life wearing cap and all, but that that's a learning that I would say all triathletes should do, is to not wear anything new before. So whether it's a cap or the goggles, you must train. The goggles and swim trunks were all fine. Cap, we didn't realize the stretch with the sticker. But again, it's important that before you plan for any race like that, you should be well equipped with the apparatus, your equipments and everything.
So the funny story is that because they saw us swim for so long, the motherboard had already left pretty far away where our other replacement caps were. So I'm like stopping them. Hey, wait, I need to change my cap. And they didn't realize that I'm trying to stop them. And they're like, come, let's go. I'm like, stop, please stop. And they're like, go. So then, but luckily they understood that they had to. So then they threw my cap and I changed that. I left this cap. They pulled that back out, and then we were able to swim through. But
situations like that happen, and for any athlete, especially when you're in the midst of that event, whether it's swim in the ocean or whether it's cycling for the triathlon, running, marathons, you have to be prepared for such uncertainty. Your shoes may start giving you blisters. What will you do then? How will you cope with the cramping that is happening?
I ran barefoot after that.
so all these things should be well visualized, and so that it does not hinder your performance. So that's where the visualization and the breath work comes in handy, because it's also making you equipped with any eventuality, uncertainty that may come your way, and that's where the mental strength kicks in more than the physical that time. You may be well prepared, you may have all the know-hows of I can finish it, but what will you do then? How will you cope with that stresses? What if the crew is moved far away from you? How would you be by yourself? There's nobody to save you then. You have to handle your own. Of course, we were lucky to have the crew, medical evacuation, the emergency and all, but again, at times the danger moves a little further away. You may cry for help, but it takes a while for them to come back to you, and for all the arrangements and all the thing, but it's how you are dealing with your own self that matters. And I think events like this also teach you a lot about being a little more humble, because when you're out in the midst of the ocean, you have to be grounded. You have to just connect to the elements, rather than saying that I'm the best swimmer, I can do whatever. The tide will throw you off, and there were moments when the tides came, and we saw the videos later how it was like taking us all over each other,
And we were like, this is not our swim. We don't swim like this. Like, just imagining us swimming the way we were after like I think 5 hours. And we had trained for this. Like, we had trained for swimming multiple hours. We shouldn't have been like that. It was only because of the mental strain and the night before that our bodies were that the entire
They
thing
were
was
already
so
fatigued when you started.
Yeah, because we didn't sleep. Doing an event without any sleep. He was on the deck on the wooden board. I was inside, but I was holding on to the window.
Oh,
I'd given him the king bed by himself.
So there were 3 people that were supposed to sleep in the king bed. Bharat, me and the observer.
yeah.
Both the observer and Bharat were out puking.
Passed out.
And I was alone in the king bed, but I was holding on to this. Dude, that night is something.
I think these are the experiences when you come back and share like this, makes you look back and have a what did we just finish? What did we just accomplish?
How was it after somewhere around midway? That's when all the built up energy is already over. From that point on.
So midway through,
So I'm assuming around 4.5 hours.
Yeah, around I think 3.5 hours. So my seasickness had gotten a little bit okay with it. So I think 3.5 hours is when I was able to take my first nutrition, which didn't come out. So I had like 3 bananas and I had hydration, like the pure vitamin C carb that I loaded. And that is about it. Bharat, unfortunately, I'll let him speak about it, but could not have anything in the entire till the end. He was like just puking and nothing was staying inside for him. Midway through, I would say one of the things that I started feeling was that when I was looking at the waves, right, at one point it was like, hey, I'm not swimming again. It did come to that because when it was never ending. And another funny story is these guys talk everything in nautical miles. We talk in kilometers. And we didn't have internet to actually convert nautical miles into kilometers. And they're like, 5 is done. We're like, we've definitely swam more than 5 kilometers. It's just 5 done.
So just for information, how much is the conversion rate?
It's the normal miles conversion. So I think 1.8.
1.6.
Yeah, 1.6, 1.8. Okay. So yeah, so they're like 5 is done. Okay. The worst part is when they were saying, oh, only 3 is left. We're like, only 3 kilometers left? That's fine. And the longest 3 kilometers we've ever had.
And there were moments in the middle, I was telling Shaashwat, where you questioned yourself, why did I sign up for this? It would have been better if we could have done like an Ironman. At least we would swim for not more than an hour or 2. But here we are swimming non-stop and going and also it just gives you it gives you more possibilities for preparation next time, and also it also helps you share these things with people who are starting for the first time, because it's imperative that such things needs to be factored in, and not just jump in and we can do this, we can do that, all those things.
And hallucinations are real.
What did you hallucinate about?
So
was there a mermaid in front of you?
No, I wish.
You must have seen one.
I wish so, but yeah. Mind was playing different tricks on us while we swam. It was like we got a sting in one of our fingers, and then after, let's say, a few strokes, we got something gluey on it, and there's nothing that we can see, but suddenly our skins has started feeling something gluey.
Oh.
And
was that real or was that hallucination?
We have no idea. Although there were certain hallucinations, I don't want to go to a psychiatrist, so I've not spoken about it. But so like while breathing, right? So our motherboard was a little further away and we were following the dingies. So like I was seeing the motherboard, and then after a few strokes, what was happening was because of the waves, right? It felt like the motherboard was this big and the waves were this, and the wave is going like this over, so it's like turning into a shark mouth, and the boat is going inside, and like, what is going on here? But yeah, I mean, that's where the mental training came into picture. We knew what was real, what was not, and we knew what is important. Like,
how do you deal with it then?
Just need the crew out there just to like tell you and keep citing, because otherwise you can get so zoned in that headspace that it can you can be little, it can overwhelm you. So I think the being in check with the reality, and just taking few pauses in the middle, if in case that's getting too much for you, have a sip of water, take a pause, get back to it, so that you don't go into another world which is not really there, and of course, jellyfishes, like Shashwat was saying, the attack is real, but also the crew puts you this car grease on you, which was the first time we had experienced, and the entire thing got smeared with the whole lot of grease. The smell itself can also become very on your head because it's so strong. Of course, it wards you off all the jellyfish and other creatures, but at the same time, A, you're getting seasickness, B, you're vomiting, C, the smell is going to your head, so it just those couple of things that we were not ready for, and
what keeps you moving forward in that case?
I think it's just the
Each other.
mission. There's just to complete that entire journey, and also support from one another, the crew. It's just like the end goal. That we will be accomplished thing, and the bigger picture.
I mean, before, like, we've discussed this afterwards, and before diving also, even if one of us had just asked this question to one another saying, "Karna hai kya?" we don't know what would have happened.
But that's every event, like any endurance event. Around midpoint, you feel like, why did I sign up for this?
Yeah, exactly.
And then just after few more distances, you feel like you gather that courage again, and then it feels comfortable over time. I don't think it felt comfortable for you because of the challenge that it is, but how was it towards the end?
So 2 weeks before, what happened was I broke my ligament. So the ligament completely tore.
Ankle.
The ankle ligament completely tore. And again, I was talking to Bharat and like, what are we going to do? And Bharat has always had this positive impact. He's like, just think about it positively. We'll take every day at a time. Let's see how it goes. Okay. Obviously, you cannot run anymore. So stop that. Obviously, take cycling easy as well. We'll see how it goes. I did show up with the ligament torn to the swimming pool every single day. And I did swim. And I could feel my leg not moving. But that's something I kept to myself. Anybody who asked me what happened, why are you wearing a crepe? Why are you wearing a guard? And I was like, everything is fine. I just pulled it. I got an MRI for my own sake, but I did not share that with anyone as well. The doctor told me you have to be in a cast for 2 months. I was like, that's not happening. What's the other option for me? He's like, just try to not move it and try to keep it stationary. And that's what I did. And we kept it, it was all a positive mindset. Luckily for swimming, again, the kick is
just for balance.
It's just for balance. And that is what messed up at the end. Because what happened was, because I was not able to balance the left leg properly, my right shoulder got pulled at the end. So the right shoulder, if you look at the videos at the end, my entire shoulder is coming straight, or I'm doing a single arm pull with my left hand because the hand had given up completely. So that was one challenge at the end that I faced.
But yeah, I think for very brave of him to brave through his injury, and also the injury are part of it. It was uncalled for, but at the same time, how you cope with that. Of course, if it was severe where he can't even walk, which was matter, so he took a week rest, and I just told him, just be in the water, be around the water, and don't put too much load in it, because water acts as a great balancer, as a healer, so you just have to stay in there, do slight gentle movements which are not putting any load on you, and keeping that positive dialogue, and support, it really helped him to, enhance his healing, fasten up his healing. And of course, he was not 100% fit, but still, like I said, long distance swimming requires a lot of upper body, then the lower body is there, it's supporting you, but it's not that much, 20% I would say. But again, these are things that can come up, when you least expect it, and there were question marks whether we will be going or not, There's so much is at stake, and personally we have worked so much for this, and how we want to overcome this at the right time, so that we at least can be there and complete the task. But talking about what happens to the end, like I think we were really grateful that a lot of media partners came forward to cover the event experiences from us, like how it was, and what, what's the message and etc. So you felt really good that, sport like open water swimming has got from some mainstream media, and I want to also take an opportunity to thank Hero Motors, Mr. Munjal and his team, for really supporting us with the media coverages and all. And also I've been following your podcast for a while, and I think you did see some of my updates, and it was really sweet of you to invite us to the studio. Here we are, after a few years of being in touch. But I'm so happy that it's our first podcast, and I'm glad what you're doing hit the road, and sharing the experiences of so many fitness enthusiasts with numerous people who might be taking the sport eventually. Just giving them some sort of a highlight. I'm glad that we could do that with you today.
It's our pleasure.
And maybe people will hit the water more often.
Yes.
That's a good
So I had a question here. Any sane person who might have received their scans would forfeit. There's just one choice of difference, a difference of one choice, that whether I go forward with it or I forfeit. How does one take a decision? Because it's not an easy decision. It is, you are injured. Any sane person would not go forward with it, but you kept on going. So how did you come to a conclusion? How can one, injuries are natural to happen. It may happen to anyone at any point, even though they might have trained really hard for it. But how does one take that call?
So one of the reasons why I've not really shared this aspect of it is because I don't want to promote people taking a call on their health. That is the first and foremost thing, and your body is the one thing that can only tell you whether you're fine or not. So just sometimes pushing through an injury can cause a lifetime of a problem, and you don't want to do that. So you have to listen into your own body. You have to see how much are you able to do and what is the expense of it. The expense for me was swimming. I knew is a healer anyways, right? Kicking is not going to be that important. Then the other thing, if I was running as an example, or if I was cycling, it was a forfeit at that age, at that point only, because you can't do that. You can't put strain, you can't put load on your body. I did go for a physical examination also with an orthopedic, and they also, the ortho, they examined it. They were like, you shouldn't put a load on it. And obviously I was limping around. But
did you take physio?
Yes, there was physio, but again, the physio was not really, so I was not supposed to move it entirely because the ligament will stick. It has to stick somewhere. And if I move it too much, it will not stick properly. And that can cause a permanent damage to the mobility of it. So the risk was that if it gets joined incorrectly, every time I do a certain kind of motion, there is a chance that there'll be a repeat of what happened. So that was and again, I have to thank Bharat again for not just this, but for the conditioning also, because the way I twisted my ankle, it would have been a broken bone any day. The only reason why it survived was because I was doing all of these conditionings of animal flow and other functional training, which really helped the muscle around it, that not even a single hairline came to the bone. And that was what was critical, because if it was the bone, then again cast, then it was a forfeit. It was the ligament, it was mobility, and I knew it was swimming, and I tried to keep a positive mindset. And I always had the thing, okay, if I'm not able to do it, I'll come out. There's that sense of security that if there's nothing, I will quit in between also. It's not a problem, but let's just take. So that's what we followed even on the like the entire night we had seasickness. We did not sleep. He was puking his guts out. What did he do? He's not like, I'll give up. He was like, let me take 2 strokes. Let me swim for 20 minutes. Let me swim for 30 minutes. Let's just swim for an hour. Let's just swim for, hey, we've come so long. Let's just swim for another hour. It was never, even while jumping in the water, we did not have this mindset, oh, we got to finish. It was, because the thing is, again, this could be a spiritual aspect as well, but what we really felt was that we had put in all the effort that we could. We were done with it. We cannot put in more effort. We cannot train anymore. It is the time to see the result of our training and what we've done. So it was just, when we got in the water, it was just a simple one stroke at a time. Just swim for next 30 minutes. Next 1 hour, let's swim. Let's just swim for another 30 minutes. And that's how we progressed. And we were like, okay, now the Sri Lankan Navy is gone. So at least we're in Indian waters. Let's just swim a little more. And the crew was showing us the watchtower, but what they did not realize, the Dhanushkoti watchtower, but what they didn't realize that we were in the water, so we can't really see because of the waves. So we're like, let's go. Okay, take us, it's fine. Like, we can see the watchtower. I'm like, good for you. Let's go. So yeah, I mean, so don't go against your body, obviously. Your body will know when to quit, when not to quit. And don't get flustered by, if I've trained so much, I have to complete it. If for a second, even when I was talking with Bharat, if Bharat would have said something like, hey, we've trained so hard for this, let's go, then there's a pressure that comes on the other person. Then he feels like, okay, I have to do this. Bharat's words were, hey, stay in a positive mindset. We will see how it goes.
Yeah.
If things work out, great. If we're able to finish, we finish. If we're not able to finish, we don't finish. So the pressure goes away. Then you can quit whenever you want. And luckily, we have the mindset of sports. So quitting is, if we quit, it is going to be like, okay, this person is going to die probably. That's why he's quitting. But I would not recommend everybody pushing their body as much as that. So that's why I kind of toned down on this particular incident. I don't want to pass on a wrong or negative.
I think having a support crew, having a mentor, or having like your buddy is very important. Your accountability and what sort of a dialogue, conversations you're having with one another and with yourself. Because a lot of times you're all by yourself and you're doubting, whether I'll be able to even walk, because when the injury of that magnitude happens, or any health condition, there is always a concern, and you never know what if that goes forward, how will I even walk? So, it also can be taken as an opportunity to enhance your healing by taking all the right measures, supplementation, therapy, resting, and at the same time, some level of mobility, some level of movement to just get the circulation, icing, So you have to then attack it from all angles rather than letting that. Along with what really helps was the breath work, visualization, and don't leave your upper body stretching and some sort of a conditioning. You can sit, you can be there, but at least you can do some ab work, you can do some, stretches, you can do some twisting, forward bend, back bend. So all can be done around that, so that the person is not feeling like I'm bedridden, I cannot do anything. So our plan was that he stays in some sort of a conditioning, so that mentally he is not gone.
Single leg push-ups.
Mentally is not gone into like a resting mode totally, and I cannot do that. So that was my fear. So I just said, just do these things and that's fine. If you can't swim, you can't walk. Let's take it a week, 10 days, and then you come. I think that was the whole idea.
Awesome. It was real fun talking to both of you, and I'm sure our listeners might be excited to try this adventure by themselves. If they want to do it, what tip would you like to give?
All I'll say is, keep patience, do a step-by-step training, take guidance from a mentor, an expert, and start slow. Like if you're planning to do a triathlon, Ironman, start with the small activities, small distances over a period of 1 or 2 years. Give yourself time. If you're totally fresh and you aspire to do that, still you can do it, but start again. So learn the right technique, do a progressive volume. Progression in your training is very important. But it's all a personal challenge, and you will feel accomplished, you will feel great, and you will also feel motivated to inspire others to do that.
It's amusing how much power of compounding can help us. Yeah. But again, awesome guys. Thank you for sharing your story, and I'm sure our listeners have found it helpful, inspiring themselves, and take on a crazy challenge like this. That's it from this episode of Hit the Road podcast. I hope the conversation was inspiring and helpful to you. I myself am quite motivated and looking forward to take on some incredible challenges myself in the future. We'll keep coming up with more such inspiring stories and stories that break human limits. Till then, I want you to subscribe to Hit the Road podcast on Ep.Log Media. We are coming up with a very new app as well. You will find the link in the description. And of course, we are available everywhere on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, JioSaavn, Ghana, and now YouTube as well. I urge you to check out ngearsafe.com. They have an incredible headphones out there and some other products as well from NG Earsafe. Safety is something that you cannot compromise with, and I'm sure you might have read about a lot of news with the increasing road accidents. You must be really safe when you're outdoors, and NG Earsafe can give you a safe experience of listening to music and podcasts while you hit the road. I'll be back. Till then, goodbye.